One second. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Peace is Built Through Communication. And this is our monthly discussion group. Thank you for joining us. And I want to get right to it. We're a little bit late, but yeah, thanks for being here. All right, so we do this every month on the fourth Friday of the month. We have our monthly discussion group, and we have different leaders. And today, all year, we've had guest leaders, new people jumping into the driver's seat here. And today we have Mr. Tucker from Indianapolis. He is the Peace Ambassador for the Indianapolis School of Metaphysics. My name is Terrence Lamont Bellows. I am the National Peace Ambassador for the School of Metaphysics. We have a full house today. This is wonderful. Thanks everybody for being here. And so, Tucker, you want to just introduce yourself, not yet your topic, and then we will do one more thing, and then we'll get us started. So can you just introduce yourself for us, please, sir?
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm Tucker Kochmuller. I'm actually from Des Moines, Iowa, and I go to the school there. I'm 37 years old, and just really looking forward to sharing here, and I appreciate kind of be a part of this with you guys.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, sir. So I think we've already got the decisions made about who's going to read the preamble. Is that right?
I will.
All right, TJ. Thank you, sir.
All right. This is the preamble, just to kind of lay down some groundwork. As it is established in the Universal Peace Covenant, and says peace is indeed built through communication. The open exchange of ideas is necessary for discovery and well-being, for growth, for progress, whether within one person or among many. We come together here now in this meeting of hearts and minds to have a spirited discussion. This is an open forum. This is not a class. There is no one fulfilling the role of a teacher, and peace is built through communication, which is a live social media discussion. In this experience, we establish the reality that we are all equal. We have a moderator, Tucker, who has been chosen prior and chooses now to give of themselves freely and does not wish to push or cajole or manipulate those who join here today and those who might witness this in the future. For this discussion, it is indeed designed to share ideas, experiences, and understandings, and by doing so, come to a greater truth through each one sharing their personal experience with sagacity, with equanimity, both free of prejudice, so that thus we will come to know that peace is liberty in tranquility. I yield back.
All right, Tucker, it's all you, sir.
All right, great. Thanks. Again, Tucker Kochmuller here. So when I was asked to do this, I kind of stopped, and I'm just going to kind of talk about a little bit of my thought process that went through some of the notes I made here. So when I was asked to do this, I was pretty excited about it and pretty ecstatic. My brain started firing right away, remembering all these great memories and stories and experiences that that I could share about peace from my childhood and stuff. So I started compiling a list and was planning on picking one that really stood out. After a few days worth of making this list, and it was pretty large, I circled back, to finally pick one. Well, the list was broad. It had a lot of different subjects, places, people, things, ages, thoughts, topics, a lot of different aspects of all through my life. As I read over the list a few times, expecting one would jump out, none really did. And then I quickly, like, this joy shifted from all these memories to a frustration. And it's like, man, why can't I pick one of these? And then I kind of stopped and was like, the whole point of this was to find what created peace within these stories. And here I am getting frustrated about it. So I took a couple deep breaths, kind of collect myself with a peaceful presence. And after a few moments of collecting myself, I reread the list, and then I had three kind of core, what I consider core things, kind of pop into my mind about the list that I reread. So, one, there was three consistent things with almost every memory: myself, a peaceful feeling, and presence in every moment. I was fully into that time. Um, Two, for me, peace is a lot more than just a feel good event that happened in the past physically. It's like an embodiment that I either created space for or was open to allow it to flow to me in a sense. Um, and this is something that I've like consistently done is held space for throughout life with the key of being aware to be able to stop and acknowledge it and then give it thanks for that memory that I had, and kind of reaffirming that positive loop. And third, I feel I wasn't able to pick one story, and I never actually did pick a story. I wasn't able to actually pick one story because what I realized was peace was it kind of required pieces of me in a sense. And I like words a lot, so I found it very interesting that the word peace also sounds like the other word piece, which is of tiny little pieces, partial components. So in one hand of peace, you talk. Sorry, my dogs might bark. Um, in one hand of peace, you're talking about the tranquility and all these great things, and we kind of think of self with everybody, and on the other hand you're talking a bunch of little tiny fragments to make a greater whole in a sense. And I found that really interesting. So looking back on the events, I wasn't expecting anything. um, I either knew it was the right thing to do, or I just wanted to do it regardless of the why, and then I was fully present in the time. um, I didn't question what I was going to get in these times. Um, a lot of the memories that I written down were revolved around giving for me. Uh, Giving and sharing and uh, being loving and giving and sharing has always been a big part. And I think that really kind of circled around with the pieces aspect again. By giving a piece of peace, you're getting some back. And you can look at it in relation to the tenfold concept. For every one piece of peace you give, you receive 10 times the pieces you gave. Um, but it's also important to know that as significant as it is to give pieces, you have to retain some for you too, so that you can always maintain your piece of peace. Um, so that was kind of the thoughts that rolled through my head. So then I started thoughts. Okay, so what does peace actually mean to you then, Tucker? Um, and peace to me is a state of harmonious, tranquil awareness within self, among external relations, and collectively as a whole consciousness. It's a three-part thing to me almost. This might look different in different scenarios. We might need to dive deeper into situations so we can learn and heal and grow to nurture peace. Other times we might need to remove ourselves or something else to maintain our peace. And then there may be times where we do nothing but observe and stabilize in the peace. Um, this is when we have to kind of keep in mind that regardless of what's going on, there's always a positive outcome in the end, or a good way it's going to turn around. So, and you just trust in the flow of the universe that it's going to come back, and it will. The last kind of thing I have here, and then we can open it up here to discuss. Um, Peace to me is omnipresent now. It's ever present. You just have to stop and be aware of it. And if you don't see it anywhere, that's when you got to give it out. And you know it's going to come back. Um, so that's a big part of me in a sense. I've always felt that I'm optimistic alchemist in a sense, where it just keeps flowing this optimism. What I realized, kind of looking back to these stories, like that's peace within me, that it was able to share or at least stop and see it. And that's really great to see. It's always present everywhere. We just need to remember it and give it space within us. So that's my main bit on it. If we kind of run out of things to talk about, I got some more. I like to do research, but I like to open it up to everybody here, see if anybody wants to have anything to say about it or their thoughts.
I'm not shy. I'll talk. Tucker, I appreciate the story that you shared. Even though I know you said you didn't pick a story, the story you told us was your story of, you know, your journey of preparing for this event, and so I appreciated that story. And you said something that really stood out to me. A couple of things. You know, it was the pieces. I like that. But the thing that really grabbed my attention were in the list of three things that you said were present in each of the stories that you were considering, probably including this one. And that was that you were fully present. That was one of the three things. You were fully present or fully engaged with whatever the activity or experience was. And that got the gears turning in my head, because as I began to think about it, I found that to be true for myself as well. That I'm at a lot more peace when I'm fully engaged with what I'm doing. So not if I'm second guessing, or if I'm worried about what to do tomorrow, or worried about what happened yesterday, or worried about what somebody's thinking about what I did yesterday or tomorrow, and or doing right now. All of those things take away that peace. But when I'm fully engaged with the what's right in front of me right here and now, that doesn't mean that I don't plan for anything, or that I don't remember or process what happened before. But when I'm fully engaged with what's right in front of me, I'm at the most peace. I'm probably also the most productive. And yeah, I like that. So that really grabbed my attention when you said it, because I don't know if I recognize that as a common factor, or, you know, spoke about it that way. So thank you very much for what you shared.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback, TJ.
The thing I'm excited about is that you said that peace is omnipresent, that it's always available. I think that that's a very rare truth that doesn't always get shared. People don't necessarily notice it. And so I'm excited to hear you say that. And yeah, eager to hear this chosen story.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Tucker, I really liked the fact that you introduced the relationship of the cognate, the rhymes, peace and peace, not rhymes. What are they even called? Homonyms. Homonyms.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a wonderful composition, a jazz composition by Bill Evans that's called Peace, Peace. If you don't know it, look it up. It's a wonderful composition. It's really beautiful. Peace, peace. Also, Michael Franti wrote a song that's called "You Can Bomb a Nation to Pieces, but You Can't Bomb It to Peace," which I think is also very nice. And also, speaking of words, it's a lovely phrase that you used, optimistic alchemist. That's really a nice phrase. I'm going to use that myself. It reminds me a lot of one of Timothy Leary's classic phrases. He called himself a hope fiend, right? A pun on dope fiend. He was a hope fiend. Isn't that nice? But optimistic alchemist. Ooh, I'm going to use that. I hope you don't have it copyrighted. And also, I'll share with what Terence Lamont said, is the insight that peace is omnipresent. It's like one of the classic mystical psychology notions, is that enlightenment is already there. You just have all this noise on top of it so you don't hear it. Happiness is already there. You're already happy, but you invent all of these stories and whatnot, so you forget it. The same thing with peace. We have all of this noise and garbage and silly influences and worries, and peace is always there. And for me, that's a very important aspect of the whole notion of striving for peace. It's not something that you attain. It's already there. You need to find it inside of you, but you don't create it. It's already there, right? And I think that's crucial. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. So this kind of goes right along to your notion there about you can't bomb for peace. So as I was kind of doing research and diving into things, a concept of positive and negative peace found me out there. And it's an interesting concept, so I'll kind of tell a little bit about it. So negative peace is typically like removing something or ending physical harm or immediate absence of violence, war, fear structure. But something like what needs to stop in a sense. And there's a positive peace, which is more of like an active mindset with justice, equality, and social structures in mind for long-term peace, sustainability. What needs to be built in a sense. So we need to me, not confuse them with judgment. It's not a good and a bad thing. It's more of like a magnet where you need, without ending the warfare, you can't necessarily correct the society issues on the back end too, and vice versa. If you correct the society without ending the warfare, it doesn't work either. So both need to be present for long-term peace. Typically, you'd have to start with removing the negative and then reassuring with positive peace. So it's just kind of an interesting, because a lot of times, obviously, absolute war and no war is such a dramatic, a huge thing when you talk about peace. So that's kind of a little bit on that. And then I also kind of see peace as it's three aspects. In a sense, there's three different aspects of peace. There's a self, a global, and a universal. In a sense. So there's the inner peace to me, which would be yourself. It's a state of psychological and emotional tranquility. It involves managing like my own thoughts, emotions to achieve freedom from turmoil, fear, conflict, whether it be external or internal. So how to potentially help with this would be like mindfulness, meditation, cognitive reframing, and definitely awareness of self and the present. Being present is a huge factor. So then the second aspect would be relational or social peace or global peace in a sense. This would be harmony and reconciliation amongst external individuals, communities, nations, things of that nature. This would be like the active reduction of hostility, violence, and conflict, with shifting that focus on resolving conflict, practicing forgiveness, and then fostering cooperative, healthy, structural social foundations that would sustain the harmonious relationships and public security for the greater good of all, in a sense. So how we would achieve this would be with active listening, conflict resolution, empathy, and mutual respect, in a sense. And then the third aspect would be spiritual peace or universal, in a sense. A lot of people have different words for this piece, in my opinion. This would be like the wholeness with core spiritual beliefs, in a sense, awareness and integration with that omnipresent peace, that unity, harmony, that's always there. And it represents assurance that you're attuned with the universal collective and the greater consciousness, in a sense. So to me, this could be achieved by understanding, awareness, breath work, and connecting with nature, since we're in the physical. That's a big piece of it, obviously, still. Excuse me. So that was kind of what I found and felt about three aspects, or how I feel peace could be, not just with me, but on a global and universal scale. Find it, inside, and then blast it out to our earth, and then out to everything else, in a sense, is kind of how I see it. I'm again going to kind of open it up to everybody, see if anybody has any other thoughts or anything that they'd like to discuss on any of those topics. It's nice to have a kind of an open conversation if you guys want.
I like being fun, like being me. I want to circle back around to the peace part of the conversation, because I was thinking of what are some other things that there are pieces of. Might think about a piece of cake, or what was I just had another piece? Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind. Some people say that sometimes, but when I circle back to a piece of peace, it reminds me of the illustration of the candle. Like if you use a candle to light another candle, it doesn't take away anything from the first candle. It's still there. And that goes back to the idea of this omnipresence of peace. If I give someone a piece of peace, I haven't taken anything away from myself. My peace is still there, and hopefully I planted a seed of peace in somewhere else, or in some other place or something. Because you can give a piece of peace to a place too. It doesn't have to be to a person. And there are places in this world that can use a piece of peace. Not the world itself. The world is fine. It's peaceful. But but there are environments, circumstances, situations where we can share a piece of peace with that part of the world, or that group of people, even if it's not directly. But back to the point that it doesn't take anything away from me to share that, to give peaceful energy. Just like it doesn't take anything away from the candle. If you give someone a piece of cake, you're gonna run out of cake at some point. If you give someone a piece of mind, you're gonna go out of your mind. maybe that's not the way to do it. It's definitely not peaceful. Usually not. Sometimes I don't know. Some people are gonna say it's necessary. Sometimes, so I'm not gonna get into that. But if you keep doing it, you're probably not gonna. You're gonna run out of peace. You're gonna run out of pieces of mind. You're not gonna have peace of mind if you give away your peace of mind. But if you give away a piece of peace, then you still have peace, and I like that. That's all I got for now.
Thank you.
I would love to follow up, but I think I'd like to hear from somebody else even more.
Yeah. I think I'd like to make a comment about peace. I just saw the line of the Universal Peace Covenant, which we say every morning on Zoom. World peace begins within ourselves. And Tucker, I like what you were saying, like it radiates out. And I know that if I'm feeling agitated or something's, not centered, or, there's things I can do to get back to center, with breathing or meditation. And I have become more aware and become increasingly more aware just of our thoughts, how my inner world, my inner peace does radiate out to my community, my city, people I interact with. And, I used to think like, it doesn't matter that much. I used to be a lot more self-centered with that. Now I'm being much more mindful, for saying the Peace Covenant has helped a whole lot, reading that every day, to see my influence and to realize that, yeah, I do have an influence on the world and my thoughts matter and I can affect somebody else in a positive way. and yeah, and bring up the, the mood of the room or the mood of the group, or elevate it to a much higher state. And of course, what's going on in our world, I always want to hold peace, and I do hold peace for that, for the greatest good of all concerned. So it does start from within. And I think that was important when you highlighted that. Starts, that's where it starts or radiates out. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of frequency and radiating energies and flows. So I appreciate that you brought that up. I do think it's very similar to like a radiating or a magnet. Why I refer to a magnet also, and it can be compounded by the more people that are aware. And to me, that's part, like, people need to start kind of tapping into that global awareness. I believe people can kind of be connected with thought, whether present or not. So kind of, tap in and almost call each other occasionally, like when we're sending out peace, and if you feel it, you send it back, that's what it's all about. So, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else like to share anything? All right. All right. No problem. So, kind of going back to the peace topic again. I'm big with words and definitions and whatnot. So, and etymology. I like looking up etymology also.
Can I,
So
can I share
go ahead.
something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. I mean, Tucker's been talking a lot. I think he set us up pretty well. Are there any thoughts maybe Tony wants to share, or Joanne maybe?
Not really. My mind's pretty quiet, just receiving it. I mean, I agree and I resonate with a lot of what you said. And of course, I know Tucker. So peace is in peace. That's always interesting to me. And you already have it. Whenever I engage in different talks or hearing other people speak, I like to hear the words they choose, because then I can take that back, especially to my school center, and share that with the newer classes. Not really anybody, but just hearing things in different ways and then seeing what clicks. So I don't have anything necessarily stimulated inside, but I'm
Okay. Yeah, we've done something. Thank you. We've done something in the school for a while, probably since before it was ever cleanly thought to be a school, which has been lectures. I
yeah.
think we've done a lot of lectures as the School of Metaphysics. And so we wanted to make this a different experience where we were really receiving the ideas of each other and then bouncing those ideas, back. So I just want to make sure that we're sure about what we mean when we say discussion group. Super dialogue, maybe we could call it, and later on.
Sometimes there's just not a lot.
So
Dialogue.
one of the things we usually invite people to do is share stories that maybe resonate with a thought that has been shared. For example, I have one, and I'm going to tell it, and maybe then someone else can tell a story. And it's about another thing that Tucker said was about the tenfold return and how that applies to giving peace as well. And that's something that I really like to practice in my work environment, sharing peace, sharing joy with the people that are around me. I don't want to work in a summer office, so um, I actively do that on purpose. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at first, but now it's a conscious act. It's willful. But there was one morning that I came into the office and I was not fully present, like was discussed before. I wasn't fully present. My mind was somewhere else. And if I were gonna give that a usual description, I was in a bad mood. but I wasn't really giving that out to the people. I mean, obviously that energy was present on me because people noticed, but I wasn't like actively like yelling at people or anything like that. It was kind of like in me. So, I came to my desk, I sat down, started working or whatever. But the people around me just were not having that. They weren't having that day. And then they poked and prodded at me until they got a smile out of me. And so they were giving me back the piece that I had been giving out, the whole time. And they made sure that that was still in me too. They gave it back to me. And that really, really meant the world to me. I tried to tell them to leave me alone and they were like, no. They literally said no. I said, leave me alone. They said, no, not until you're you. And I'm eternally grateful for that.
Yeah, giving peace and not running out. That's I think that's really awesome. When we created a different flow, a different creation of what we had begun that was called The Invitation, and it was given. It was a play, but it was also a dialogue and a brilliant discussion between aspects of different realities, different parts of the world, people who had won Nobel Peace Prizes and what they considered peaceful and how they wanted to express peace. And one of the things that we did when we morphed it, we grew it into a completely different experience, but it also just came out to be like what turned out to be for me something that felt very regular, normal. Even though there was a lot of changes, the way that we changed it, the flow that we put it in was very, it was omnipresent. I mean, it connected a lot of different things. And one of the things that connects to what I heard you guys talking about earlier caused me to think about is in the beginning, every character, we had 8 different characters. And so every one of us had a candle that was lit. And it was already lit when we started to signify that, our awareness is on, that we have fire, the thought process, the desires were strong within these people for peace. And so that candle was that physical expression of this light that had been turned on. And at a point, we would blow out the candle individually. And then at the end, we would relight the candle and we would relight it from the same starter candle. And so that meant that it was signifying again another image of giving something and not diminishing, actually spreading, right? And that's how I can see peace is it's one of the things that is inexhaustible. As you give, it gives back, so you get more of it when you give. And so that's kind of your experience, TJ. And that was the imagery that we had of the things that we added to the invitation to shift it and turn it into something more full. And there was another experience I had recently, I think it was in November or December, a student of the school named Lorelei, we were discussing peace and different things that we were doing and ideas that we had. And one of the ideas that she had is that she'd been doing a water blessing for some amount of time. I don't know how long, but she was doing a water blessing and focusing that water blessing on unity, on growing and expanding unity and in the spirit of peace. And I was like, whoa, she suggested that I do one. And I was like, that's a good idea. I think I will do that. And the cause of unity. And so now, since that was last 2025, either November or December, I decided to start doing it in January of 2026 because I go to the Peace Dome once a month on a regular basis. And I also go past the Niangua River, which borders the land of the School of Metaphysics, the College of Metaphysics in Wendyville, Missouri. And so I don't know how I'm going to do this when it gets, colder. I'm going to have to get a ice pick or something out there, right, and chop off a rock or something. But right now, since it's warm, I can just scoop a cup in the Niangua River take it to the Peace Dome, leave it there so that it becomes holy water, and then bring it back on the way out and pour it back into the river. And so we've been doing that now for 6 months. So we'll keep doing that all the way throughout the year. So that's another, significant imagery, a picture of giving, but never running out. So for fire and water.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It's also elemental.
Go ahead.
It's also elemental.
Yeah.
Very much so elemental. One thing, I don't even know if you know this or not, Terrence, but when we were practicing the peace vigils at the Peace Dome, which is behind Stella, the picture of it is, there was a student who brought us a peace candle. And the history that we were told with the peace candle was that this was a candle that Mahatma Gandhi, had lit. And some enterprising person had honored that and had started to transfer that light from one person to another, even taking it on a plane, airplanes, to get it over to other continents. And that obviously is how it got to the States, somewhere along the line. And so that candle, as far as I know, is still in that building behind Stella right now, the Peace Dome, in the Laureate Room. And that's something that you might want to check into and use. The imagery of the candle and the lit candle has so much, it's just universally true. So in every culture and throughout history, there's always been that honoring of the realization that the reflected light is always inside of us and shining. And that's part of what makes us human. And it's also part of what calls us to be divine. I was reflecting upon when you were talking, Terrence, when the invitation was given in Australia, in Melbourne, and it was quite amazing to watch the people there and to meet them and to watch how they embraced the whole essence of it, because they really weren't that familiar with the people, and that's not unusual. Especially in today's world, all those people just kind of, except for maybe Mother Teresa, and in the States, definitely MLK, and there are some names that are out there. But I learned something recently, which I was teaching a master class and talking about Albert Schweitzer, and he's one of the individuals that are honored. I see it as honored in the invitation. I see it's a labor of love, and it's not just a peace offering, but it's a compassion gift, I think, because I know that it's an experience for people who both bring it to life, and for anybody who's ever sat in the presence of it. It's just from the very beginning, it's had that spirit of all of those people. And, we talk about they won a peace prize. Like, well, yeah, some people do, but these people were chosen because they actually lived it. And Schweitzer was one of those people. And I learned something new that I had not known when I was doing research for the class. And what it was Schweitzer, he was on a track to live out his heredity, his DNA, his family of origin, because he was a son of a minister. He was musically inclined, all that. He did his first recital when he was 9 years old. And in his first 28 years, he earned doctorates in philosophy and religion. He was a minister. He wrote papers that are still honored around the world. He was quite a rebel in terms of what Jesus was and wasn't, and that kind of thing. He was really putting it out there. And a lot of people didn't necessarily like that. He was good at it, though. And he was one of the foremost experts in Bach, not only in playing and in recitals, but in actually understanding the composer and writing on it and being able to speak to it. And that became important later in his life, because he used those talents to make money so that he could build all of the missionary medical places in Africa, in the Congo. And so he was on this track to live out his destiny, his ancestral destiny, and was doing it very well. And he came across a tract from some Catholic missionary organization. And it was a plea for individuals. It was a calling. It was a plea for aid in the Congo. And he was moved by that. And he decided he was going to go back to school. He was going to become a surgeon, which he did. And he was going to go to Africa. So when he got ready to go, he contacted the same people that did the tract and let them know that he was going, and he asked for assistance, help, whatever. And they wouldn't give it to him because he was a rebel, and they were afraid that he would stir up a whole bunch of liberal thinking that they didn't want stirred up. And so they wouldn't back him. And so he and his wife raised the money and came back to them and said, we'll fund it. And they went, oh, okay. I mean, this is how peace spreads throughout the world. You got to realize this, right? So it's like, so he went. And the part I didn't know, because that's kind of like backstory, the part I didn't know was that they started it in a chicken coop, number one, and they were there only for about a year. And then because they were born, his wife and he both were born in Germany, World War I started. And because they were German, they were arrested and put into internment camps. And then they were transferred to a mental institution building where they were putting a lot of people like him. And that became his reality for a couple of years. So it was like he went to the Congo, he started his medical missionary work, and then he was basically caught up in the World War I thing. And he stayed in Europe for about 6 years. And it was really during that time that he put together his philosophy, which is called Reverence of Life. And I had not realized that World War II came into his life in that way. And he became even more passionate about the work when he went back to the Congo. And it really was, he's like Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa had 120 different charity missionaries all over the world by the time she was done with her life. And he was like that in the Congo. He just kept funding expansions of buildings and more hospitals and everything. And but to learn about someone's complete life, and to live my life, this is the way I look at it. I draw great inspiration from people like that. It's not just to carry their tale forward, but it's to live my own to the best of my capability. And there's no way in hell that I even hold a candle to any of those laureates. But I do know that every thought I've had and every choice I've made has been touched by peace, even when I did not feel peaceful, even when I needed to figure out how to reconcile things, how I needed to influence other people to do that. And that's a lot of what brought the invitation into being, because the people who were building the Peace Dome were not being peaceful. They were being typical brothers and sisters, even though they were not physically related, but they were. And they sometimes they would just spat over the most ridiculous things because they were living together. And that's what happens with human beings as we're working out a process, right? However, they needed to have a greater vision. They needed to have something that they could really sink their teeth into and their mind on that was in common, that was in alignment with the Peace Dome. And so that was what the spark in me, that I wanted peace around me. I wanted peace in the Peace Dome. I thought that was pretty important. I thought frequency was really important. And so that was the kind of movement that brought the play into being. And it was a real call. And I think that's really what I want to say. There was a real need. It wasn't imagined. It was real. It was sincere and real. And everybody knew that. We knew that we could do better. We knew what we were doing. We knew that we were creating a Peace Dome. What did that mean? Well, we didn't know all of that, but we knew that we wanted to be it. And we wanted to bring it. And that was a beautiful thing. So thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And the shared wax that you're talking about is actually in every school right now. And we have one here in St. Louis. So if y'all see a candle that looks something like this in your school, that came from that shared wax experience.
I do not see that in my school, but I will go walk through and look again.
Okay.
One can be made for yours.
Yes, we need one.
Yeah, and you could come together. And yeah, it's wonderful. It's just, yeah.
Stella, were you gonna say something?
I'm just gonna say I'm not sure if that's on my school or not. I think I may have seen it, but I would like to have what if it isn't. Yeah, come together and create it.
Well, I can say that the people who are in the invitation, those schools, I'm certain that they have one. So
Okay.
maybe we need to expand the invitation to more schools.
Yep. Definitely.
You may not know this. I think you do, though, Stella. But the first time that the invitation was offered off of campus outside of the Peace Dome was in Indianapolis.
Oh,
Amy
did not
Paulus
know that.
Amy Paulus was director. She loved the place so much she wanted to bring it to Indianapolis, and she got together the people that were local, even a university professor, Mr. Kraus, and she was the narrator. And it was, it's enterprising people always. The school is such a place for people to come together and to make wonderful things like that happen, not just to talk about stuff, but to actually bring it into reality, because that's where you bring it through you. And so Indianapolis has a place in history in that regard. So
Awesome. Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's all great stuff to share, guys. I love just to circle back on a couple of the comments. I love the concept of when you were having a tough day, TJ, that those people around you that you've been giving it to hold you back up, and made you, kind of restabilize that frequency. That's that return for sure. That's a wonderful thing, and that's, just talking about it just brings more awareness about it with us and with everybody else. And, that's what to me, we really need to do is just keep bringing more light to it. The more that shines out, the more it's reflected back. So I think that's wonderful. I love how we talked, Terrence, how you talked about the water, and Barbara, how you talked about elements and things. Elements are such a huge thing, in our physical world. And those are tools and resources for us constantly, so, I always like to envision, as I cross water, because it flows everywhere, that peace that we know is omnipresent. I try to make a mental effort every time I cross that water, and that's flowing out to everything. It's a real electrical flow. So that's a wonderful thing to tap into and be aware of. So I love that you guys brought all that up, and I think it needs to be talked about more, more freely for everybody. So, it's a wonderful topic. Terrence, anybody else? I don't know how long we usually go on for, or
if I can add something similar to that, there's in Oroville in southern India, there's a giant globe. It's called the Matri Mandir. It's like the sacred center of this holy community. When they inaugurated the place in 1968, there was this giant ritual where 150 some odd representatives of nations brought a handful of soil from their nation, and they put it into this urn. And everybody who is there, who visits the place, they're told this story. And this is an important part of it, is, it's like Terrence was saying, that there's this candle in this particular place that people remember that it comes, like Barbara was saying, that it comes from Gandhi. So if you remember the story, that's great. If it's just there, it doesn't mean anything, right? So if the candle is there and it has a connection to Gandhi, okay, there might be a slight bit of magic relative to that, but the real magic of it comes from remembering the story. Yeah. And so, like I say, this urn in Oroville that has dirt from 150 some odd places, is the dirt important, or is the story important? I mean, obviously both are, but without the story, the dirt is just dirt, right?
Yeah, I think that's great, Chair, because it's 100% accurate. It's more about the memory and remembrance, and that's really the core. You can create anything you want at any point in time with the right awareness, presence, and memory. That well, you can obtain it. You've already had it, and it's obtainable at all times. So that's a great awareness to have.
It's the people that keep it alive. It's the frequency, is what you called
Yep.
it, Tucker, right?
Yep.
When you're talking about earlier.
Yep, you're
It's the
tapping into the
frequency.
frequency.
And
Yep.
it can die out. I mean, I think about the human body, and the human body, as long as there's a soul or a spirit or whatever you want to call it, but something that animates the body, then it's alive and awake and working. When that soul is taken away, you can do anything you want to this shell, and it's not going to talk to you. It's not going to come alive. It's not going to digest food. It's not going to eat. It's gone. And the same thing is true with any great endeavor that we do collectively together. This is the discussion idea. When people are united and they all contribute to the same ideal, then magic happens. And that's what Miko's talking about. Miko, that's the whole thought, the same thought about the healing wall at the college, which is also on the side of the Peace Dome. Because right now, the last count that I knew of, we had over 300 and I think it was around 45 stones from all over the world that have been collected through the years since we built the Peace Dome. And the idea of that is someday, this is, if the dream stays alive, then it will happen. Then those stones will be inlaid, and people from all over the world will be invited to come. And if they gave us a stone, we asked for stories that went with the stone. Where did it come from? And it was supposed to be a native one. We asked for native ones, not just when they buy something or whatever. Oh, I saw this pretty stone and bought it. That's great, but that's not what this is about. This is about native. It's about like the soil. It's the same vibration and frequency that Oroville has, that is in the Peace Dome and the work there. So it's wonderful. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, acts of peace carry high vibration for sure, and the things then get embedded with those thoughts as well. Yeah, so we have we normally go about an hour. If we go over, it's fine. I'll say now that whoever's watching this, you can join us if you want to join the discussion. We do this every month on the fourth Friday of the month, and we start at 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and we normally go for right around an hour. And we've already talked about this a little bit, but I just want to be completely formal that the way that this started is because we have been reading the Universal Peace Covenant on Zoom together for well over 2,200 days, every single day, every 7 days of the week, 365 days of the year, no matter what. Even on my birthday, we have been reading the Peace Covenant. On Christmas, it doesn't matter. And so, so we make sure that we do that every single day in the morning for those people, in the this hemisphere. I don't even know which one it is. It's the Western Hemisphere, right? Isn't that where we're at? Something like that. I don't know. I wasn't very good in geology, but geography or.
You need to do a peace vigil again, because you really learned the globe doing that. And how time is important. It's west and north, Terrence, both.
It's definitely worldwide, and we have Miko here representing the other part of the planet. So thank you for being here, Miko. And so Tucker, was there anything else you wanted to share?
I don't. I mean, I could go on and on. I love talking about these topics, and having the opportunity to kind of dive into them deeper and research them and further knowledge and wisdom on it, and sharing and talking about it, because that's the core thing is bringing it out and sharing it with everybody, and having this kind of forum to do that. So I just very grateful for you guys and the awareness of what we're doing here. It's a big thing for everybody. So grateful for you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely.
If I can say one more thing, a conversation happened just a couple of days ago about what Barbara was just saying, the impermanence of the body, right? Like when you, in Oroville, they never use the phrase to die, you leave the body, yeah? And, okay, interesting. But the conversation came out that when you die, your body is either buried or cremated or something. The chemicals that are now supporting the several trillion cells that are in your body, there's who knows how many actual physical chemicals there, they eventually get back into the ecosystem. And so whatever energy you put into your own body at this moment will continue in some kind of trace form simply by your physical body returning to the earth. And again, this is incredibly subtle, not measurable, but I still think that as an aspect of magic, it's real, right? Your body vibrations, as Tucker was saying, continue even after your body stops functioning.
Alchemy at the deepest level, right?
And simplest as well.
Yeah.
It's just so organic, it really is. And then on the other end, just the whole miracle of birth. I mean, conception, one egg, one sperm. Doing. I mean, it truly is magic. It's like, and yes, we can understand it more and more. And man tries to recreate it, all that kind of thing. It's like, it's an interesting thing we're doing. But yeah, amazing.
Also, the breathing ritual that happens during the recitation of peace, we say we breathe in peace, breathe out contentment. I mean, whatever. Every breath that you exhale has been inside of your body, been influenced by your spirit, and it goes out into the atmosphere. I don't know how many of you have seen this idea that it's obviously true, but it's almost trivially true, that every time you breathe in something, breathe in air, you're breathing at least a few molecules that Jesus Christ has breathed. I mean, sure. Or, the Buddha, or, whoever, right?
Reconstituted.
It doesn't matter, we're all connected, not only spiritually, but physically, every time we breathe, every time we drink,
Miko, you'll appreciate this. With the Om, with the work that I've done with the Om, particularly in the last 7 years, it's my practice every night. I go to sleep saying the Om because I do understand that the last thought that I have before I lose consciousness, if I don't come back, that's where I'm going. And that's what I am. And that's very real to me. That's not just a little, confection or something. That's like, yeah, because I used the Om to heal my physical body when I had surgery. And it's like, that's where the alchemy becomes real. It's no longer a magical thing that happens to some people and other people it doesn't. And, some people get miracles and others don't, and all that kind of, you go beyond that. And it's just, yeah. So the last thought, you really do want the last thought to be a godly one, no matter what it is. And I looked at relationship that same way. It's like, I learned when I was in my 20s, one of the most valuable things I learned that really has provided me peace of mind throughout my life in regards to people is that you never go to bed mad. And it was given to me as a piece of advice in terms of if you're married or have a partner or that kind of thing, or, housemates, whatever, that you don't ever go to bed mad. You just don't. You do whatever you need to do so that you can come to some kind of peace. And people can do this. They may not want to. And sometimes, especially kids don't want to, whatever, but it's like, you just don't. I used to make my son laugh because I would just, I wouldn't let him go to bed mad. So I just, I keep talking, I keep singing, it's all kinds of things. And it's just, it works. You can put out the effort and it works. That's the point. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't miss an opportunity.
Yeah. Same reason I like to watch what I'm thinking and how I think as soon as I wake up, to keep that vibration going, so I know what that is.
At the tone for the day.
Yeah. So we continue.
Oh,
go
ahead.
Go ahead, TJ.
I just wanted to highlight something that jumped out to me as Dr. Barber was speaking about these things no longer just being neat ideas or things. So what does it mean that the dirt in Oroville or the stones in the wall or the wax in the candle, like what does that activate in your life? I think is important, other than just saying, oh, that's neat. And that's where it becomes real. What does reciting Om, for 108 days, activating your life? That's when it becomes real. What does reading the Peace Covenant for over 2,000 days do? activating your life. And Stella Lynn shared what it does for her. That's when it becomes real. And that's why I appreciate all of these stories so much.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So again, we do this once a month. Sounds like we need to do it more, but we also we also have for this year, as we've been doing the water blessing, we've also been having new people lead our discussion. So I just want to say thank you to Tucker for being the headwind today. And also just let everybody here know that we're looking for new people for the rest of the month as well to, jump in and be a facilitator. And so if you are eager about that, if you're watching this or if you're here right now with us on Zoom, either way, maybe. So join us at the morning reading in this little part of the world and the evening reading over in Thailand area. And and we will be happy to link up with you, have deep discussions, even after we read the Peace Covenant on a daily basis like this. So thank you, everybody who shared your thoughts, your voices, your stories. Let's keep peace moving. And I love right now for us to just take a deep collective breath as we breathe in and we breathe out contentment and we release for the day. Thanks a lot for being here. So let's take in a deep breath, breathing in, breathing out.